This place is my own, Penang, my new home.
Hello everybody and welcome to Penang, my new home. My name is Timothy and today is the 2nd of January 2025, so I would like to wish you a very belated Happy New Year. Nevertheless, we are still in the New Year mood and I hope you too are feeling the New Year mood, and I hope that for you there will be a productive year ahead. Today I have another video for you on Penang, my new home. But before I begin, I just want to give you some clarity and information. Yeah, this is the channel to help people move to Penang. And you may be moving here from other states, or you may be moving here from far, far away. In either case, I welcome you to Penang, and I hope that we, the people of Penang, can make you feel truly at home. Myself, I've been in the property business for many years, and also I have a team of real estate agents. So if you ever need an agent to assist you, whether in renting a property or even to purchase one, you can get hold of me. My number is here down below, and explain to me what you are looking for. Perhaps you might want to buy or rent a property, or perhaps you might want to sell a property, or perhaps you might even want to become a real estate agent. Yeah, all of this you can get in touch with me, and depending on your situation, I may assign somebody to serve you, or I may provide you information on how to become a real estate agent. But this video is not about hard selling properties. This is about providing you with information. And I hope the information that I'm providing to you will be useful to you as you move in and fit yourself into the Penang environment. So in today's video, we are going to talk about moving or living in a prewar shop house in Georgetown. Right after Georgetown was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, I think it's back in 2008, there was a lot of interest in prewar shop houses. And when I say prewar shop houses, I'm talking about both shop house by the perfect exact definition, as well as residential houses. And I will go through the definition with you on the terminology as used in Malaysia in a Malaysian context. And so let's start by going through some terminology as used in Malaysia so that you can speak the agent's language. Yes, sometimes the agent in Malaysia will use specific words which may mean something else where you come from, because this is how they were educated here in Malaysia, and sometimes a totally different definition grew up in the Malaysian context and has become accepted and commonplace. And the first one would be shop house itself. Shop house or prewar shop house has a specific definition here, particularly in places such as Penang, Malacca, and also the historical parts of Kuala Lumpur and other major cities in Malaysia. Shop house, by the accurate definition, is a property which is a terrace house or a link house or a row house where the ground floor, or in the American context, the first floor, the bottom floor will be a shop itself. And then there will be a staircase that goes up to the upper side, which is the dwelling. So that would be the first definition of a shop house as used in Georgetown, Penang, as well as in many of the other cities in Malaysia. However, not all such dwellings or properties are all shop houses. Even a property that was built during the prewar era and a terrace property that has entirely residential and entirely residential dwelling are often also called a shop house, even though by perhaps a more accurate definition that would be a townhouse. Yes, if you were to go to Manhattan in New York or other cities, when you talk about a townhouse, it would mean an entire terrace house where it is a house in town that is completely residential. So that is a townhouse elsewhere, but in Penang, that too is also called a shop house. So do not be surprised if you hear the term shop house, but there is no shop. It's entirely residential. In the Penang context, a pre-war shop house can mean one with a shop down below, or it can be fully residential. Okay, and if you want it to be more accurate, where it is entirely residential, another way of calling it is to call it a pre-war terrace house. Okay, so a pre-war terrace house will remove the idea that there is going to be a shop down below. So when you say a pre-war terrace house, yeah, that's what it means. But so if we are talking about pre-war terrace house, it's going to be in the historical part of Georgetown. And afterwards, I'm going to go through with you some location map so that you have a clarity of what to expect where in Penang. So that's the first thing which we want to go through. What is a shop house? The second thing is, if you're going to purchase a property in Malaysia, and I repeat this often in many of my videos because you are going to come across this term, and the term is subsale. In Malaysia, subsale means resale. That is to say, a property being sold on the secondary market. The secondary market is where an existing owner of the property who has purchased it from perhaps the developer or from yet another owner now wants to sell off that property. In the Malaysian context, is called a subsale. Elsewhere in the world, is called a resale. But this subsale context is only colloquial. If you go into the real estate industry and you study it, you will find that the word subsale does not appear anymore. So this word subsale appears only in the colloquial context, in the spoken everyday language, where for some reason they have appropriated the name subsale to mean resale. And they do not, in the Malaysian context, they do not actually understand what is subsale, but they have no problem with sublet. So sublet, they will understand as to let by a tenant, whereas the accurate definition of subsale is to sell when the process of selling that property is ongoing. So we put that aside. In Malaysian context, subsale means resale. So when you are going to purchase a property, the agent is going to talk about subsale, so understand what he means by that. The next term that we want to address is townhouse itself. As I mentioned earlier, I said that it's better that I will just use the term terrace, pre-war terrace house. If you use pre-war terrace house, the agent in Malaysia will not misunderstand you. But if you use the term townhouse, they may confuse you because the term townhouse means something else in Malaysia. A townhouse in Malaysia means a walk-up apartment. Usually, there will be a unit down on the ground floor or the first floor in the American context, and another unit on the upper floor, and each has staircase going to each his own unit with their car park lots outside. So that would be a townhouse in the Malaysian context. So a townhouse is not a terrace house in town. Yeah, so when you talk with an agent in Malaysia and you say a townhouse, be sure that you are speaking their language, because in their language, a townhouse is something like a walk-up apartment with a unit down below and a unit up above. If they tell you about a townhouse, that's what they mean. They do not mean a terrace house in town. So that is some of the terminology which you need to understand. So subsale, townhouse, and what is a shop house in Malaysia. Next, let's go to location. Now let's start with the map of Georgetown itself. And when we are talking about shop houses in Georgetown, it can be anything. But if your purpose is to find a dwelling, then some places might not be right for you. Like for example, this is Beach Street or Lebuh Pantai, and if you see here, these are what you would consider as the very definition of a shop house, where there is a shop down below and there's a dwelling up above. But all these are more suited for commercial purposes. So that might not be something which you are looking for unless you are planning to do a business in Penang. Yeah, this website, this YouTube channel is not just for foreigners. This is also for locals. You may be coming from other states in Malaysia and you're looking to conduct a business in Malaysia, and then you want to do it right in Georgetown itself, and you're looking for a property here, then this would be suitable for you because they are the perfect definition of a shop house, where over here we have a shop and then up there it could be a dwelling, although in present times many of these are no longer dwellings. They have been renovated and converted for commercial use. So nowadays it is very common to find shop houses that are entirely commercial. That means they are entirely shop, they are no longer house. So when we are talking about house, we are talking about a dwelling. So in the past, it was so that it was a shop down below and it was a house up above, but not anymore. So this would be a shop house in Beach Street, which is one of the main commercial street in Georgetown. Now, let's say you want to look for a property to be a dwelling, and there are some places where you can find that. The choices would be Moon Tree Street or Mantri Street, as well as Lorong Stewart or Stewart Lane. And let me drop the Pac-Man to show you, because you will find that everywhere you go, many of the shop houses have been converted to commercial use. As in this one has now become a beautiful boutique hotel. This is 7 terraces. These are shop houses. So it used to be but in this case, this was never a shop house by the perfect definition. This has always been a dwelling, or what you would call a townhouse, because it has always been a dwelling entirely, whether it's on the ground floor or up above. But these have been purchased en masse and converted into a boutique hotel, and it has beautifully preserved. What we see here, this would be the 5-foot way created to shelter the pedestrian from the elements. So this is an example of what I would call as a pre-war terrace house. And as we go along this road, you will find that occasionally you might come across a property that is still being used as a dwelling. But most of the time, these have all been converted for commercial use. So having said that, it's going to be a challenge for you to find one that is entirely residential. Perhaps this could be one of them, where it is still entirely residential, and this would be how a pre-war terrace house would look like in Georgetown. And over here is yet another. And the general rule is, if the dwelling is shorter, it will be older. If it's taller, like this one, it will be younger. So depends on the height of the building. You can more or less judge how old is that building. So the older it is, the shorter it tends to be. And as we go along Lorong Stewart or Stewart Lane, you will see that many of these shop houses or terrace houses have been converted to commercial use. And so it is all over Georgetown that you will find that all these properties have been converted for commercial use. But if you are looking for one to be a dwelling, perhaps it's a good idea for you to engage a real estate agent, because the agent would have the contact to find for you one that is available across the town. So these are all shown from September 2024, which is just a few months ago. And you can see that many of these terrace houses, some have been renovated and some has still not been renovated. So maybe some of them are available for purchase. So this is Moon Tree Street. Let's see another place. So Moon Tree Street will be one of the places where you might be able to find a shop house. Another place would be Love Lane. So I'm going to drop this on Love Lane, and you will see that, yeah, majority of the shop houses in the inner city of Georgetown has been converted to commercial use. So you have to be quite lucky to find one which is still available if your intention is to turn it into a dwelling. So this would be Love Lane, and then sometimes you might need to look for the smaller streets such as Sichuan Lane. So when you go to Sichuan Lane, you will say, yeah, this is a terrace house which is entirely dwelling. So, and the good thing about going to the smaller lanes is that it is going to be quieter, more serene than being out there in the main roads. So this is Sichuan Lane, and looking through Sichuan Lane, yes, you'll be able to find a few such properties where it is entirely residential. And another place which I will show you is, let's say, in the Armenian Street area. Let's go to Achin Street itself. Many of these are owned by either clan associations or the mosque. So the nearby mosque may own most of the properties. So many of these are only available for rental. They are not available for purchase. But it's up to you if your intention is simply to live in a pre-war terrace house, then you might be able to rent one. And this is Achin Street. And as you can see, it is the norm that we have 5-foot ways down on the ground floor. And the 5-foot way, strictly speaking, is for pedestrian. That is to say, for the public. Occupancy is always upstairs, while shops are always downstairs. And after this, let's go through some pros and cons of living or purchasing a shop house, pre-war shop house, as well as a pre-war terrace house in Georgetown. As I mentioned earlier, right after Georgetown was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, there was a lot of interest in pre-war shop houses in Georgetown. That was a long time ago. It was about 2008 or so, and now we are already in 2025. Since then, the market has more or less adjusted itself, and nowadays people are more cautious and more discerning before they jump into the market. And right now, but on the other hand, it is quite a challenge to find a nice shop house in Georgetown, which is why I'm creating this video to give you an idea of where you can find some of the nicest shop houses. And also, at the same time, you have to understand about the age of the houses. Usually, if it is closer into the city center, it will be older. And as you move out of the city, it might not be a pre-war shop house anymore, but it will be something which is post-war period. So the pre-war shop houses would be the ones built before the Second World War, that is to say before 1940. And then the post-war ones would be the ones built in the 1950s and 60s. So by architectural styles, the pre-war shop houses are in the straight eclectic style, or some are in the early Art Deco style. Whereas those in the post-war period would be in the Art Deco style and early modern style. So be sure what you are getting yourself into. And for the architectural style, I will put a link to my webpage in Penang Travel Tips. Penang Travel Tips is also my website. I've been writing this website since the 5th of January 2003. So come 2025, I'll be entering the 22nd year of writing Penang Travel Tips. It's a website with a lot of place information, and I have this page which provides you information on the different architectural style of shop houses, or rather terrace houses in Georgetown. So go through this so that you have an idea of, when you're looking at a property, what sort of architectural style is that particular property, and is that style what you are looking for. Okay, and of course, when you are considering a shop house, there's going to be many pros and cons, and we are going to go through those pros and cons as well. Before you jump into the idea of buying or even living in a prewar shop house or terrace house in Georgetown, it would be a good idea for us to go through some of the pros and cons. Well, as I've said, this YouTube channel is not to encourage you or to urge you or to persuade you or to dissuade you from making a decision, but rather to give you the information so that you can make sensible decision according to your own circumstance. So now we are going to go through point by point some of the pros of purchasing a shop house, a pre-war shop house in Georgetown, and then we'll go through the cons. Okay, let's start with the pros. The first pro is unique architectural charm. When you purchase a pre-war shop house or a terrace house in Georgetown, you're not just purchasing a property, you are purchasing history. You are purchasing a period history. So every pre-war shop house will come with a specific period in time with a specific architectural style. It could be in the neoclassical style, or the straight eclectic style, or Art Deco style, or the early modern style, depending on where in Georgetown you purchase that property. Yes, even along a given street, there could be, especially those very old streets of Georgetown, there could be several different architectural styles, and you will be part of that wonderful picture. So that is the unique architectural charm of Georgetown. Because why is it possible that there could be several different architectural styles in a given street? Is because some of the properties, some of the lots have been redeveloped over and over. In time past, every lot also was very valuable, and so sometimes the property could have been burned down a long time ago. The earliest were built in thatch, but by the mid 19th century onwards, as the city became more prosperous, the thatch and wooden houses of Georgetown gave way to the present brick buildings. And entering into the golden years of Georgetown, when Georgetown became a very important harbor for the tin mining industry, then some of the most beautiful straight eclectic shop houses were built. So those are true gems, and those are what you might want to purchase as more or less a property or real estate trophy. So as we saw earlier in the as we go through the street view of Georgetown, it is difficult to find one that is available. Many of these have been converted to commercial use, but once in a while you can find a beautiful, charming property, and that might be worth purchasing or considering. The second is cultural and heritage appeal. As with the first point, you are going to be within a World Heritage Site, and you are being engulfed by the culture and heritage of Georgetown. And Georgetown itself is one of the oldest cities in this region. It is the prototype for later bigger cities such as Singapore and Kuala Lumpur, as well as even Hong Kong. So it all started at Georgetown, and so as I said earlier, you are purchasing history and you will be part of the cultural and heritage mix of Georgetown. So that is another pro why a lot of people who has the means consider to purchase a property in Georgetown, particularly a pre-war shophouse property. The third point to consider is that such pre-war shophouses are limited in numbers. They don't build them anymore. Yeah, you can't find modern pre-war shophouses. There's no such thing as modern pre-war shophouses. So these properties are limited in numbers, and so to have one means it's a good potential investment for the future. These properties, all properties in Penang retain their value, but those which are limited in numbers and come with specific aesthetic will hold their property value even more. So those are something to consider when you are thinking about purchasing a pre-war shophouse. Another aspect to consider is spaciousness and layout. You will find that shop houses, or rather those pre-war terrace houses, have very high ceiling, and they have those high ceiling because in the past there's no air conditioning, and so they depend on air ventilation to cool the inner part of the property, and so that's why they have such high ceilings to give natural ventilation. And this is now being appreciated because it's so comfortable to stay in such well restored shop houses. And quite often also right in the middle of the property is an air well which can become an inner courtyard. So this is such as an inner garden right in the bustling, noisy part of Georgetown. And so for many people, they find such properties to be so charming, to be right in the city itself, and yet to go inside, and after you pass by the reception hall or the main hall, you come to the second hall, and then there is a little courtyard of your own. So it is a concept of turning the property inside out, where the garden is not outside, but rather the garden is right inside the home. And having the garden right inside the home with the air well, which is an open ceiling high above, means that you can see the sky within your house, and when it rains, the rain will come down and cool the whole area. For many people, that is very charming. And the final point for pro is exclusivity. So if you are able to find and purchase, or even just to live in a shop house, a pre-war shop house in Georgetown, it offers you a certain degree of prestige because, as I've mentioned, it's not easy to find one. Most people are holding on to those properties. It is only at certain times that one will come into the market. So this is a choice purchase for many. So those who are able to buy one and then beautifully restore it, it will give you a sense of exclusivity, and that will be congruent to a modern lifestyle. And so, having gone through the pros of purchasing or living in a pre-war shop house in Georgetown, let's go through some of the cons of doing so. The first and most obvious is high entry cost. That is to say, these pre-war shop houses are not cheap. It's very expensive. It's just like purchasing one whole piece of antique the size of a house. So the pre-war shop houses, the best preserved one, are like purchasing antiques. So these are not cheap. So it is not something which everybody can afford. So this is something which you have to consider, that yeah, it is going to have a high entry cost to purchase such properties, and for the same amount of money, you can live very, very well in a beautiful, luxurious condominium everywhere else in Penang. So this is the trade-off which you might want to consider. Is it worth purchasing a pre-war shop house? You are going to get something very old in comparison to something very new if you purchase a luxury condominium. So high entry cost will be one of the first cons to consider when purchasing a pre-war shop house. In the tail of high entry costs is high renovation costs. Some of these properties are neglected, and that's why the owner wants to get rid of it. So after you have purchased it, you are going to look at a hefty renovation bill, because these were properties that were built for occupants a long time ago. They are not for present day creature comfort. And in order to bring them to the present day creature comfort, you are going to look at a lot of expenses in the renovation of the place. So it's not only that the properties are expensive, the renovation to make them livable up to present day standard is going to cost you a lot once again. So it's going to be priced and then priced some more. So this is something which you need to consider if you are planning to purchase a pre-war shop house. Another con is maintenance challenges. When you purchase a pre-war shop house, you may be getting something which is aging. All the material is aging, all the material needs replacing. And sometimes they were built and fashioned by artisans that are no longer living or not available locally. So if you want to redo the ornamental works on the moldings, you may need to hire artisans not from locally but maybe from China, and this of course is going to cost you a lot. Some of these pre-war shop houses were built with no proper toilets. And yeah, they don't have proper toilets as we are accustomed to. So you may need to redo the toilet. And the toilet may be something which appears quite primitive to you, even after it has been renovated. That is to say, the flush system requires that you may have to climb up a short flight of steps to get to the toilet itself. So those are things which you need to be able to accommodate. It's not about the properties accommodating you, but you have to accommodate the property because this is what you are going to get. And this is the picture that you need to know before you jump into purchasing a pre-war shop house. Related to high maintenance costs of those pre-war shop houses is how you would maintain those shop houses. These houses have walls that are porous. These walls need to breathe. So you cannot just paint any paint on it. The city would not even allow you to do that. There are strict guidelines of how you would maintain those pre-war shop houses, because what you do may affect your neighbor's house. So you might not be allowed to put specific paint on the house and also specific material if this is going to affect not only your house but your neighbor's house. For example, if you paint your house with a paint that is non-porous, it will cause the water to go to the neighbor's house and will cause peeling on your neighbor's house. So these are things which you have to consider. And for modern amenities, things such as fiber optic wiring, you might not be able to enjoy that. If that area does not have good internet connectivity, then your house might not have good internet connectivity as well. So those are things which you might want to consider before you purchase a pre-war shop house. Next is no parking space. If you are somebody who needs to drive all over the place, well, it's going to be a challenge and it's going to be expensive because street side parking belongs to the town council, the city council itself. And so if you're going to park your car on the street in front of your shop house and there's no guarantee that you are going to be able to reserve that one, you will have to go all over the place to find parking for your car. So this is going to be very inconvenient for you because most of the shop houses that are in Georgetown do not come with its own assigned parking spot. So parking is horrendous. It's going to be very, very difficult in Georgetown. And my advice is, if you are a person who loves to walk around Georgetown, by all means go and walk around Georgetown. Do not have a car. Whenever you need a car, call a Grab or taxi to take you, to ferry you anywhere, because driving is no fun at all, and finding a parking space is also no fun. So maybe you might want to forget about driving. So it's not truly a place for people who loves their car. So in comparison, if you were to live in a condominium, you may have 2, even 3 assigned car park lots. The same also if you were to buy a property, a landed property elsewhere in Penang. But within the Georgetown area, parking is horrendous. And so this is something which you must consider when thinking about purchasing a prewar shop house. Living in Georgetown has its pros and cons. One of them that you might already be aware would be the noise and traffic. Yes, you can consider that if you live in a shop house, you may be insulated from the noise and traffic of the street itself, and that is quite true. If you are living in a very long shop house and you cocoon yourself far deep inside the house, then you are well insulated from the noise and traffic of the outside. However, the insulation is limited to cultural days. Georgetown has a lot of cultures, and so during cultures such as Thaipusam and the Night Emperor Gods Festival, the entire street may be cordoned off for the festival or for Chinese New Year open house. And so during this period, you may find yourself that you can't reach your own house. Yes, the street itself may be blocked off. So once again, forget about driving, because you might not be able to reach your house. You may need to walk to reach your house because the street around your house could be blocked off for festivities. So the festivities, it depends on you. If you love festivities, then you are in the midst of the festivities. But if it's going to get to you, all the noise of the festivities are going to get into you, then perhaps you might want to consider to live outside the heritage area of Georgetown. So there we are, our video on prewar shop houses in Georgetown, Penang. I hope you enjoy what I've put together, and perhaps I might not have covered some aspect which you may think of. So feel free to put your information or to share your opinion down below. Let's share among ourselves so that the information is here for it may be able to help someone else. And also give this video a like, and so that YouTube will share to more people. We want this information to reach the people who are thinking about living in prewar shop houses. I can tell you that I have come across people who love it. They have purchased such properties, they have renovated the inside, and those properties are now like an oasis in Georgetown. They have put in all the most modern amenities, but unfortunately I am unable to show them to you for privacy reasons. Maybe in future I can get somebody who is okay to show their properties. If you are one of them and you are okay about that, yes, then please feel free to WhatsApp me by my number. And also for those of you who are seeking to purchase or move into a property in Penang, feel free to get in touch with me and I will assign a real estate agent of mine to serve you, depending on what you are looking for, or even whether you are planning to purchase in Penang. Once again, I thank you for following this YouTube video, and I hope that you will enjoy my subsequent videos. Feel free to subscribe to this channel so that I can bring you some more video. And now, as I say goodbye for now, I hope that you can go to the next video in this series and learn something more as you make Penang your new home.
Penang, my new home. Wherever I roam, this place is my own. Penang, my new